Hello, thank you everybody joining us today. We have yet another digital strategy chat brought to you by Denver Data Web. We are a digital strategy company. We help our clients overcome their unique challenges, achieve their objectives, all while employing a goals-focused approach to web development, web design, and digital marketing. My name is David Zonka. I am a digital strategist here at Denver Data Web, and we have some other of our team members today. First, Sarah.
I'm Sarah Jazwiak. I am the digital marketing analyst at Denver Data Web.
And Justin.
Hi, I'm Justin Goldman. I am the web design and developer here at Denver Data Web.
All right. Well, thank you both. And again, thank you everybody that's joined us today or pops in. Feel free to send in comments, questions, things like that. Chime in there, and we are happy to make this a collaborative discussion. Today, we have a very interesting topic. So we're going to be talking about Google Analytics 4. So, with the ever-changing web and the internet in general, privacy, things like GDPR, CCPA, all these different types of regulations.
Digital marketing analyst.
And the way that data is collected and stored, web browsers, they're changing the way cookies are handled. And even recently, this is sort of a controversy, I guess you call it, Apple changing the way that they're requiring apps to be more transparent with data collection and show their users how that's being used. I think it's really compelling, and it just speaks to how all this is evolving on a month-by-month, year-by-year basis, privacy and all that stuff. Google Analytics 4 seems to be a pretty compelling step forward for Google and how they're allowing users to collect, analytics for websites and applications, make it easier for you to future-proof how you're able to collect that data and work with it, even without having cookies and that sort of thing, which I think is pretty amazing. But these are all pretty important improvements to Google Analytics, so we're going to devote a whole strategy chat to that subject today, and I think we're going to dive straight into that. So let's take it, guys.
All right, so Justin, these past few weeks, you and I have been looking at Google Analytics 4 quite a bit, and we've noticed there are some pretty cool new features. Just on a high level point of view, can you explain some of those new features and how they're a little bit different?
Yeah, some of the new exciting features in Google Analytics 4 is event editing. In the past, you would have to have your developer go out and create these events in code and deploy them to your site. No longer do we need to do that. You can create the event directly inside of Google Analytics, relate that through Google Tag Manager, and then automatically you have it deployed and working within the same system without having to wait on your developer to deploy code and then test that code. So this is all can be all implemented in the UI and tested through the UI. The next one, sorry, do you have anything to say on that?
No, I was just listening.
Oh, okay, awesome. So data importing is the next big thing that we have. The ability to import data that cannot be collected through, such an app or web. This could be something such as a point of sale system, at your place of work. It can be, you can have Google Analytics installed on there, and then upload that data later so that you can use that with, web data, app data. You can compare them together, or just compare them separately. The next one would be cross-domain measurement. So implementing analytics across all of your websites. So if you have domains that span multiple companies, or if you have a login portal and you need to track that stuff, you can easily set this up through the UI, tracking across all of your domains. And again, those analytics can be converted and compiled into one report across all of your domains, or you can look at them as a separately. The next thing is lifecycle reporting. So in the past, users were recorded when they came to the site. Now the reporting is based on the life cycle of a user, not just the visit that they had. So you're actually going to get when the user first visited the site, and then also when they have come back and how they've interacted through your site through the lifetime of the user.
That is fantastic. Cool.
Yes. So, and also with the lifecycle reporting, that's something that was really requested, was e-commerce reporting that helps you understand how your sales funnels are performing. And then the last thing we have as new features is migration tools. So Google has created tools that make it easy for you to get started with Google Analytics 4. The migration assistant will copy all your applicable settings from your Universal Analytics property to your new Google Analytics 4 property.
Awesome. That is really cool. It sounds like there's a lot that's changed. And I mean, I'm kind of hoping that some of the stuff that we're used to is still there, but it kind of seems like there's some other ways around it. I know that when we were looking at goals earlier in the week, those are set up a little differently. And can you kind of go into that? Like, how is setting up goals? Is that going to be different? Is it going to be a little bit more difficult? What did you see with that?
So goals are kind of tracked differently in Google Analytics. They're all kind of created as events now, is what they kind of referred to. So Google Analytics 4 comes out of the box with a list of 5 different events that are automatically tracked for a user when you create your Google Analytics 4 account. So those default events are click, first visit, like I mentioned earlier, page view, when a user scrolls, and the session start. So these events inside the backend can be set as conversions. And let's go ahead and you can pull up my screen now, David, and I will go ahead and show how those can be set up. Let me just find that screen. So as we were talking here, you can see click, first visit, page view, scroll, and session start are all kind of these default events that are created when you set up your Google Analytics 4 account. But you can see we have a couple of custom ones here, all calls and then thank you page visits. You can easily mark any of these as a conversion, but you necessarily would not want to mark these default ones as conversion because you're not really going to get useful insights from just a user clicking. What you can do is you can create custom events that allow you to chain these events together. So if we were taking a look at, say, our thank you page, the event name that we're triggering on is when a user views a page. So that's a kind of the default event that they have. And then all we're doing is basically saying if they have another event in here called page location, and if it ends in thank you, then we're recording that as an event. So these events are very easy to set up. And then also, Google also allows for kind of these common events that are set up through your site. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about those in the machine learning question. So also, as I mentioned before, that custom events can be set up and there's you don't need your developer to go into the code to go ahead and write that out. You would just go into the UI. And let me go ahead and share that Google Tag Manager screen. And I can show you exactly how you would just easily implement a custom event inside of Google Tag Manager. And I just pulled that one up. So inside of Google Tag Manager, we talked about creating a custom event through the UI. It is as simple as creating a new tag inside of Google Tag Manager, creating a tag configuration, and then creating a GA4 event. This event name that you put inside of Google Tag Manager will then show up inside of Google Analytics, and then you can act upon that event whenever you would like, depending on the conversion that you would like to set.
That's really cool.
How do you feel about the user interface, Justin? This is clearly like there's some kind of adjustments to how the feature works in Google Analytics. So now it's not just a goal, it's an event. It seems like there's a little bit of, I don't know if hand-holding is the right word, but they're kind of having some guided steps to help you set up. I'm just curious, what is your take so far after, we spent a lot of time reviewing this and what that has in play. What does it feel like to you? Do you feel like it's a step forward, or is it kind of more of the same? Not necessarily a bad thing, but.
No, I do believe it is a step forward. I think they've kind of taken Google Analytics and they were kind of building on top of it organically how they felt users were needing it, and now they've kind of stepped back and said, okay, well, how are users actually using this? And really, they're kind of using the data. I really think the biggest change that we're going to see here is the lifecycle reporting. We're going to be able to look back at a certain user and stuff like that. As far as the events and how they're tracking with goals, I think it makes a lot more sense because these events are kind of things that happen on the site on a regular basis, such as clicks, page views. And if we're able to measure those as events and then kind of chain those events together to understand how our user is interacting with our site and how that conversion is being submitted or acted upon in the site, then I think it's going to give us more valuable data.
The idea of the life cycle tracking, I think that's something that's really got my attention, right? So When we're doing our own research and analysis for our own clients, we do a lot of work in digital marketing, pay-per-click advertising management. That involves all kinds of things to get success. Like, the website comes into play, landing pages, conversion optimization, a lot of important stuff there. And so thinking about the path of the engagement that somebody takes through this, right? So it's like, hey, they see an ad, there's an optimization there. They click through it, they get to the website, they get on a certain page, observing how they interact with that. Where do they go from there? Do they take the action that we want? How does that end up into the sales funnel? Where does it go from there? So many interesting things. And so it sounds to me like Google Analytics is going to allow for somewhat more tracking and understanding of a user and how they're interacting with the website over time. That's pretty compelling to me. I mean, what is that? I mean, how much does that really entail?
Yeah, I think one of the big things is that you're going to be able to see a user came back to your site, and then they thought about you again, came back to your site, or found another advertisement and somehow clicked on it and came back to your site. So you're going to be able to say, all right, this user came back to my site twice, and the second time they converted. So what made them convert that second time?
Yeah.
So.
But we know that, with users right now, you can see like breakdowns of traffic that comes to your website where it's the first time visit, right? Like new visitors versus like recurring. And that's always an interesting thing to see. That's a good signal for like, hey, is the regular content we put out, is it appealing enough that people keep coming back for more? Or is it all advertising driven? It's all intent based and you're just coming to one time, they get the help they need and they don't ever come back. I mean, that may not be part of your content model or content strategy. Maybe you're not all about regular content that, is being updated and whatever. But, if it is, seeing how people keep coming back for more, because you can see that kind of thing with newsletters, with email marketing, right? You can see who opens your newsletter and how often, and do they click on stuff, which is really compelling because it allows you to kind of fine tune those newsletters and that email campaign to really serve the needs of your audience, right? I mean, what was your kind of take on all that, Sarah? I'm loving this.
I mean, I think that's amazing. I mean, I know that a lot of the time when we're looking at certain things, we're trying to find out like, oh, this person, they said that they've been to our site before. Are we able to see that? And no, we're not. So I think it's really cool that we're going to be able to see that. It'll be really helpful for marketing decisions. Sometimes even within the same session, we have a difficult time understanding like how a customer, how a visitor made their way through the site. And actually on that same note, David, you kind of mentioned hand-holding earlier as far as how the system works. And it was interesting that you mentioned that because one of the things that Justin and I noticed was that the new interface, it's a little more bubbly, like it's a little more almost a cartoony interface. And historically, one of the complaints with Google Analytics is that it is a difficult to maneuver and difficult to understand interface. So Justin, can you explain like what you've seen with that happening, and are we losing any ability to use it with that new interface and that easy to understand and like more guided approach?
I don't think we are. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is they've kind of segregated and they kind of made it where you can kind of build your own platform of a Google Analytics for. So you can say, this is what is important to me. This is what should be featured on my my dashboard, or this is what is important for me to be viewed. So it's really very customizable to what is exactly needed for your business as far as advertising. So it's not gonna really set you out of the box. You're not gonna be it's not gonna work for you perfectly. You're gonna have to set Google Analytics up to work for your company. So these new reportings that they have these. And we can go. This is probably a topic for itself. But they have these new reporting tools that were originally only included for Google 360 customers, but has now been pulled into Google Analytics 4 and is accessible for all Google Analytics 4 users.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love that free stuff.
Yep. So 360, the reporting is going to be really good because we can create these reports, save them as reports that we can look at on a regular basis that has the information that we want to see, and we can customize these reports as much as possible. They're very, very robust. So I think it's really, the thing is it does give a little bit of hand holding through the process, and it's going to give you some upfront data of what you need to see as far as like page views and stuff like that. But for it to really work with your business, you're really going to have to kind of sit down and understand, what do you want Google Analytics 4 to feature to you?
That's great. And one of the things that Google has always been really, really good about is that it does have that customizable aspect, but it seems like being able to customize it for your business, it's kind of a one and done thing. Like you do it and it's set up that way and you don't have to go through and like stack it each time you're in there again.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, once you've created these reports, you can just come back and say you rerun these reports based on your audiences or the new data that has been collected, and then also, yeah, you can come if you have a new report that you need to set up, you can easily go in there and set that report up and save it. So I think it's been great.
And we kind of noticed the same thing with views or lack thereof with the new Google Analytics 4. Historically, you would create your own view to be able to see a certain data set. But what we're finding with this one is that we don't have that option, but we do kind of have those auto options to see you can filter out your internal traffic, or you can filter out, I just want to see traffic from the United States. Which at first we were a little concerned about because we're like, oh, we can't do custom views. But Justin, did you want to touch on that a little bit more?
Yes, that's really interesting. So the audiences, and I believe Google Analytics 4, Google Analytics had audience before. We just never use them as much as we are now, or they're not pushed as much as they are in Google Analytics 4. So actually, after setting these up in Google Analytics 4, we've set up 3 of them. I think the biggest ones that we set up were only United States traffic, so we can see, where our traffic for people that we're actually targeting is coming from, because we get a lot of traffic from other sources visiting our blog pages. So we really want to kind of filter that out because we're not really going to, get many conversions from that side. But there was another one, what was it? Quincy. There was a town, Quincy, that we were just getting a lot of traffic from, and we did a little bit of research on it. And we found that town, a lot of bots activity comes from that town. So what we did is we just created an audience that basically filters out.
No offense to anyone in Quincy.
No offense. But anybody who visits from that area is basically blocked out of our data from there. Because we were seeing 1,500 page views a day just from that town. So that kind of signified there's no way that much traffic's coming for us. So we created an audience that just filters that out, so we can get better reporting and better data from that. One thing I did want to mention is that I was looking through Google Analytics 4 changes, and I think it was in sometime last year that they implemented that they are automatically blocking all known bot lists. So integrated in Google Analytics 4, automatically all bots that Google knows about is being blocked from our data.
So it sounds like we may have kind of a downtick, a perceived downtick in traffic, if that's the case.
Yes. So you might see a downtick in traffic from your Google Analytics property versus your old property, because that bot traffic is going to be kind of weeded out a little bit. And the one thing I did want to touch on, I don't think we really thought about before this, is that when you're setting up your new Google Analytics 4 property, it's a good thing to just leave both of your analytics on your site so that you can make sure that Google Analytics 4 is getting the right reporting, making sure that you're setting up the correct events and audiences. Let that kind of both stay on your site for maybe a month or so until you make sure that you got everything set up. And then you can go ahead and remove the old Google Analytics UA code.
There's your pro tip right there. That's great. It probably would be very helpful just to touch on briefly, and I imagine you could speak to this, Justin. Like, what does it take to get get set up with Google Analytics 4? Is it like a totally different application you then go to, or is it like a swap that you do with your existing Google Analytics account?
Yeah, so anybody who creates a new Google Analytics account right now, if they don't have one, is automatically signed up for Google Analytics 4. Now, I believe there is an option underneath when you're signing up to say, hey, I don't want the new Google Analytics 4. I want to go with the old Google Analytics 3 or whatever. Yeah, Google Analytics. But by default, you're going to get Google Analytics 4. Now, if you have an existing Google Analytics account and you just want to kind of try to sign up for the new Google Analytics 4, all you're going to want to do is go into your admin settings of your Google Analytics account. And at the very top, there's a Migration Assistant tab. You'll click on that, and that basically will take you through the steps that you need to transfer your account, or it's not even transfer. Basically, what they do is they copy your existing Google Analytics account and every setting that they can apply to the new Google Analytics 4 account. So goals are not going to transfer over, like we talked about. You're going to set those up as events. But it will kind of hold your hand through that process of okay, we're gonna copy all of your analytics stuff to the Google Analytics 4 property. It'll tell you your new Google Analytics 4 property, and then also it's really just a click of a button. Once it's set up, you kind of have this dashboard that allows you to filter and set up the Google Analytics account based on how you need to.
Well, I like to hear that it's not made too cumbersome. So, and it kind of makes sense to me that they're just rolling people into it automatically. That seems like a typical kind of workflow. I mean, I think I get the sense that you mentioned machine learning earlier. There's some other cool stuff that's going on there under the hood. Like what other stuff is happening with Google Analytics 4?
Yeah, so Google Analytics is built on top of machine learning. The whole thing is built on top of this. And in the past, in the old Google Analytics account, you remember seeing these like trends over on the right side where, sometimes it would give you some cool data based on like, oh, you have 15% new visitors in this month.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So this is all built inside of the reporting now. So previously we discussed that events Google Analytics 4 will allow, they have basically a common site types of events. And these common site types events go from, a retail site or an e-commerce site. And we'll actually link that in the bottom of this YouTube channel so you guys can see the list of common types. So when you're setting up an event, these common site types, basically these events are set up so that, how can I explain this best? There are many actions that happen on a site that are common to most businesses. So like a sales site would have, purchasing a product. So that Google Analytics has actually created these events that are basically like purchase_product. And you would add that as a custom event inside of your events area. And the machine learning actually understands what that means. It understands that that is a purchase because it's the event name. There's some machine learning in the back end of Google. They have some kind of connection with those event names. So if you're using those custom event names that Google has predetermined, then the machine learning is able to understand these types of events so that you can get better reporting on those and machine learning trends based on those events that are happening on your site.
I'm not sure if I'm a little bit scared, a little bit excited at the same time. I was watching one of the more recent Terminator movies the other day, and it's like, I think all these directors, James Cameron, all these people, they've got it wrong. Like, Terminators that come in the future, they're gonna have like a big like Google Analytics like readout on their screen. It's like killed 20,000 people today. But that's really neat. They're employing machine learning. I mean, essentially, it's my understanding of how machine learning works is it's not actually super smart. It's actually really dumb. It's just computers don't give up and they don't care about how much time they waste on it. So they will spend, 1 million attempts to try to figure out the right way to do a thing. Or, they'll sort through so many pieces of data. It doesn't care. It doesn't get tired. It never stops. It will not give up, Terminator style, right? And then, it'll figure out what this means compared to other stuff, whatever, right? I mean, that's probably like a really extreme layman's point of view on what machine learning is, but that's what I'm getting from this is like Google sounds like they're really leveraging this vast array of AI and machine learning resources that they've built up to Google Analytics to take it a step further in the evolution, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you have this big data set of all these websites and all this information, and you can get a machine to kind of digest that information, what kind of cool stuff can you pull from that? What kind of cool trends? What kind of suggestions can you make from that?
And it's cool that they've used that they're using that to also make the interface easier. Because, I mean, like we use analytics all the time. We've used it for years, so we know how it works. But if I had to go in there fresh, not knowing what to look at, I'd be lost. But this new interface is different. It is a lot more user friendly, and you can kind of tell what's happening from the beginning. It's awesome. Justin, I wanted to touch on one thing. I'll just backtrack a little bit. You mentioned the whole, like, it'll automatically take your old account and not convert it, but like turn it into the new interface. Does that mean that you'll have that retroactive data in the Google Analytics 4 and that you don't have to use your old account to see it?
No. So when you create your new Google Analytics 4, your data, as soon as you set that new Google Analytics 4, your data starts when you implement your new tag into your site. So anything that's in the past is not going to be recorded in there, but when you create your new Google Analytics account, it's just going to create a kind of a separate tab under Google Analytics. So you can go to your old account and still see, history data. And if you're, like I suggested, keeping that Google Analytics tag on your account along with the Google Analytics 4, you'll continue to be able to kind of compare that data together to make sure that it's looking correctly.
Okay, so that means you definitely, even if you're done with it and it's off your site and you're not using it anymore, you definitely don't want to delete that old analytics account because it has all that great historical data that we use all the time.
Yes, you would want to keep that around, and I don't, and just removing that off your site isn't going to remove it from Google Analytics, so that will just stay there. The only way that ever is going to be removed is if you delete it on purpose.
And even if you accidentally delete it, I know that it'll stay in your trash bin for like 30 days.
Yeah, actually, they have increased that to 45 days now.
Is that a true confession there, Sarah? Have you accidentally deleted a Google Analytics account before?
I have not. Well, actually,
Okay.
I've accidentally had clients do it, so I've been able to go in there and recover it.
It's okay. A friend of mine deleted their Google Analytics account. Don't worry, it's in the trash can. That's okay. I've done that sort of thing before.
They made a new one because they thought everybody needed their own analytics account. And then I was like, oh no, you can just add us to yours. And then they went in and deleted their existing account. So anyway, that's how we figured that out.
Hopefully the hand-holding by Google is much more extensive than I think, because, you guys are really smart. So you get right into this stuff and you figure it out. But it is the truth that there's people out there who are, they're doing a lot of themselves. They're bootstrapping, they're understanding digital marketing. They've been told like, yeah, you should get some Google Analytics in there, understand what's going on. I'm glad to see that Google is thinking about that. It seems, make it more approachable and easier for people, because this kind of data matters. It helps you fine tune how you do your digital marketing, and that's how you help grow your business and keep it going. So,
yeah, one thing
Google.
Yeah, right. One thing I would say, I would say sign up for Google Analytics as soon as possible. Get that data tracking as soon as possible. And if you need any help with that, just reach out. We can help you with that and help you configure it out. But yeah, get it in there, get it tracking as soon as possible, because they're continuing to add on to it, and it's going to continue to grow over the next year.
And even if you don't start using it right away, getting that historical data in there, even if it's just a few weeks or a few months, by the time you use it full time, you're going to want that. You're not flipping back and forth between the two. It's going to happen because you have your old account with historical data, but having it right there in front of you and easy to compare, you're going to want that.
Yes, agree.
What else? Anything else on Google Analytics we should cover today?
No, I think we have covered all of our topics.
Well, I think it's pretty neat stuff. Thank you so much, folks, for joining us today and listening on this. I think Google Analytics 4 looks pretty impressive myself. Really the focus on user-centric analytics that actually really is universal, right? So it works across your web or app, built to be future-proof, work without cookies, and like that. That's pretty amazing to me. I think that's going to have a great impact on, sustainability for folks. Additionally, with the way that it's evolving, people are going to see that, the ability to keep that data consistent, even with other third parties. It's like an Apple is making a change to what they're doing. You're still chugging along with your data measurement. And one thing I've always said is what gets measured gets improved. So you better make sure you measure your digital marketing analytics. So thank you, everybody that's joined us this week. I think that's a wrap for today. Be sure to check out our website at denverdata.com. We'll have some additional materials about Google Analytics 4 that's related to what we talked about today, so you can get set up with that. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you're notified for each of the live streams that we're showing each week. And also, you'll find us on Facebook and LinkedIn and all those other places on social media. Again, thanks for joining us. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.